Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Mac. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links to everything discussed can be found in the description below, so let's get on with it. This week, CIG recapped Citcon, plus we delve further into the Polaris. So this week we also had an Around the Verse. Now this was a great Around the Verse, covering the days before Citcon happened. It was called The Road to Citcon. It started 2 weeks before, where there was a plan for 2 demos. The V2 procedural planets, which was called Homestead, which is what we saw, and the full Squadron 42 mission demo. They were trying to get things polished. It looked as though the Squadron 42 was on board in Idris, and you can even see arcade machines. Maybe it's that Vanguard 8-bit game, I don't know, but it looks like we'll be able to have them on board the Idris as well in Squadron 42, just saying. We saw some crew quarters as well. I think it's the Idris, it could be a different ship, but we know the Idris is heavily in Squadron 42. Chris said that the full playthrough was to be a full hour, 1 hour long, snippets of what Squadron 42 is about and what it would play like. And they wanted to get it 100% finalised, so that there was new costumes, characters, hairstyles. He said it was the biggest character tech implementation so far. Apparently the deck crew have 8 different colours. They are fleshing out every part of the ship, allow you to walk around and even follow. If you wanted to follow the sanitation guy, you can do. There were 70 characters in this one demonstration. That's incredible. So big. And to the fidelity that the main game will be. So they were trying to get a fully complete mission playable to what we will see when it is launched. Now, Chris Roberts was the one that wanted the worm for the Homestead demo. They also wanted a character that had never been seen before, so the Desert Nomad came about with his sort of clothing and cloth draping in the wind. They were basically showing off what the system and the foundations they have built can support, and obviously the Homestead demo was a great example of this. Amazing stuff. 6 days before, you can see they had many bugs needing completing for Squadron 42. The 5 days before, there was AI issues with Squadron 42. People were walking around, bumping and clipping into things. It didn't look good. It was one of the high priorities for them. 4 days before, it looks like they implemented the worm, but there were planet glitches with the Homestead demo. 3 days before, they had Constellation and Rover bugs. The AI, for some reason, was shooting at rocks. And then it was Squadron 42 decision time, and whether or not they were going to show it. And you could see the disappointment in everyone's faces during this time. There was frustration in the room. You know, it was a difficult decision, but they decided to get everyone focused on the Homestead, making sure that that can look as good as it can be. The Squadron 42 demo was the most ambitious out of the 2. There was more people working on it. And it was so close, but they just couldn't cross the line and get it finished. People were working hours and hours of overtime. They were having sleepless nights. But they said they have moved so far with Squadron 42, and they are very close to showing us this demo and giving it to us. It was a relief for a lot of people who were focused, then just changing focus to the 1 and getting that complete. 2 days before, they had little niggly bugs with the Homestead video. The level of detail on the procedural worlds, as I say, is just incredible. Now, the developers clearly have so much passion on this project, and it really shows in the work that they put together. We completely salute you guys, because as said before, they were having sleepless nights. We don't want these are human beings that are working on this game. Yes, we want the game as quick as possible, of course, but we don't want people to be ill, to get, to damage their mental stability. Of course not. We want them to be happy in their work placement, because obviously when they're happy, the game is going to be better. So my God, I don't want them to have sleepless nights. Please, guys, just take a day off. There was a saying that it keeps getting thrown around, which is so true and just sums up everything to do with the game. It is a delayed game is good eventually, but a bad game is bad forever. And something Ben said was that it's a pleasure working for someone like Chris Roberts, who doesn't mind taking that short-term hit on his reputation to make sure that things get finished properly. Chris Roberts, you could see his face when they showed the demo, and he was just so proud in himself and in the team and what they have achieved. Seeing him grinning like a child at Christmas really proves that this guy is genuine and working so hard to get this complete. Obviously, CIG as well are working hard on it as well, and all the outsourcers. But that kind of passion you don't get with many games. A lot of the other games we see is all about money. This is not about money. This is about creating the game that he wants to play and that we all want to play as well. So, amazing job, Cloud Imperium. Amazing job, Chris Roberts, and everyone who is working on the game. You are awesome. So with the release of the new RSI Polaris, we had 2 question and answer posts just answering some of the questions and concerns that you may have regarding the ship. Now, the first question is, does the Polaris come with any snub craft already? Or can you provide a list of the craft it can hold? And what is the biggest ship it can hold? And can you fit 2 smaller craft? Lots of questions. Now, no ships are included. The theory is anything smaller than a Sabre can fit. 2 Merlins should be able to fit with precise landing. Next question, how will torpedo combat work? And they say it's going to be a similar functionality to missiles. The gameplay will be like the Retaliator gameplay, so torpedoes will have a lower top speed and maneuverability, but deal more damage per hit on a larger radius. Like missiles, other properties will vary, so lock time, reliability, countermeasure resistance, and depending on the torpedo's make and model and price range, plus the quality of your ship's avionics. Torpedoes are generally used against larger targets like capital ships and installations. Fighters and smaller ships will have much more chance of evading them. So next question, what types of ships will the Polaris be strong against, and also what ships will it be weak against? And they say it's ideal for taking on small to medium sized capital ships, used to get in quick, deliver the payload and then get out. Turrets will be used to fend off smaller fighters. Torpedoes can be used to deal significant damage against large capital ships and provide enough firepower to crack fortifications or powerful static defences. So he says think siege or base attacks. Very awesome is that. It's designed for and dedicated to combat, so it's faster than larger capital ships and tougher than smaller ships. It performs better or worse depending on whether you appreciate its characteristics and employ them accordingly. But they did say going toe-to-toe with a destroyer or a cruiser, staying exposed to torpedoes and larger caliber weapons is just not a good tactic. Fighters will find it difficult dealing a lot of damage against the Polaris. However, the Polaris captains should be wary of ships like the Gladiator and other bombers because they will be able to deal some pretty significant damage. So next question, what roles outside of combat do you see for the Polaris? Now they say first and foremost it's a military ship, so design is based around combat. It's ideal as a patrol ship or a lead ship in a fleet, but there is nothing stopping people using the cargo for cargo runs or general transport. In the real world though, warships don't usually make money. They pay for themselves by projecting influence and providing a deterrence for the operators. Ships like the Polaris and other of the similar size ships will only be used for missions rather than sightseeing because they're obviously more costly to run than an Aurora, for example. Using the Polaris for general cargo runs would not be as cost effective as a hull series, but if you have some very high value cargo and you're getting a premium for armoured security, then it's perfectly viable. So, next question. How viable will it be to run a Polaris solo or with AI crew? Now, they say in combat scenarios, a crew is imperative. The main power comes from the torpedo launch room, so there are stations for a dedicated weapons officer. AI crew can man the stations, but they are not free, obviously, and will vary in skill. It is not recommended to operate a capital ship with a skeleton crew, but only if you don't expect to get into combat. If you know there's no combat, then it doesn't matter, but then you wouldn't really need to use it. It did say you will want a friend, or AI crew, or both. So next question, can we land the Polaris and can it carry or deploy a rover? And they say it can land and the cargo hold should be able to hold a rover, however sizing is not finalised and it's all still work in progress. But it sounds like it's a possibility. What is there to do on the Polaris when you are not flying it? Now it says the Polaris can run with less than the stated crew, but you wouldn't expect crew members to be working at their stations 24 hours a day. They should take shifts. Therefore, the crew total will always outnumber the actual amount of stations available. The max crew amount could be put to use as extra security personnel or mercenaries. But don't forget there is a pool table on board, so if you get bored or you're not on shift, there you go. So next question, why does the Idris have capital-sized shields and the Polaris have large-sized shields? Can you explain the difference? It's quite self-explanatory, I would have thought, but it says that the Javelin and the Idris are substantially larger than the Polaris. The Jav and the Idris is also slower than the Polaris, and so in general are likelier to be exposed to fire longer. With ship components actually taking up space on board, they say you can't just fit capital size everything to the ships. Ships also require power from the power plant in order to work, so you may get better results running a smaller shield generator at peak efficiency rather than a large shield generator with little juice. But it is all about balance as well. It is a game at the end of the day, so it needs to be able to play like a game. Anyway, final question for this first post. Can we land in the hangar without raising the platform? When landing, does the pilot have to match the Polaris speed? And will it be able to take off while moving? Now they say, in theory, yes, you can land without raising the platform, but ships with retractable wings, like the Sabre for example, the platform will allow the Sabre to reduce its width before being lowered, so it's a bit more safer. You will need to match the Polaris' velocity and bearing like real-life refueling in the air, so it's risky, but expect good communication between fighter pilot and the Polaris crew. It's better to slow down or stop, and the same just goes for taking off as well. Anyway, that was the first post. Let's get straight on to the QA part 2. So the first question in the Polaris Q&A part 2 is, if I wanted to use the ship to haul cargo, can I use the hangar bay? What about swapping torpedo bays for more cargo space? If so, how much cargo do you see it hauling? Now, they say that the torpedo bay is non-modular. It cannot be replaced. You can place cargo wherever it fits. This is where it sits, it fits. But the problem is, without locking plates like what we see in the cargo hold, if you went into 0G, you would find the cargo floating around, and it's quite dangerous if, you're taking sharp turns or you're crashing or whatever. They may investigate aftermarket options in the future to prevent this, but there's no plans at this time. Second question, will it have an Argo? No, it won't. Third question, how is the Polaris versatile? And they say it will be able to be used for things such as strike missions, search and rescue, general patrol. In addition, it has cargo facilities allowing for haulage, plus it can carry a range of small fighters outside of their usual reach. So next question, does it have a medical facility and captain's quarters? It has both, plus a secondary quarters for the fighter pilot and second in command. They say it has a small med bay, nothing too big. Capacity to stockpile 24 torpedoes and another 4 ready for launching, which are loaded. So next question, what makes it more than just better than the Retaliator? They say the ability to have another ship on board, support for a whole crew, the ability to carry cargo without an extra module, can let the whole strike team work together. It fills a similar role on a much larger scale, basically, and the cargo can be used for mission-related supplies, so spacesuits, ammunition, repair supplies, med equipment, all sorts of stuff. Very, very cool. Next question, how modular is the ship? Can any parts be swapped out? They say there's no plans for large internal spaces to be modular. Same amount of customization with the component system. Can you tell us if the cockpit view is obstructed like the Constellation, and what is the reason for this? Now, they say the cockpit is basically a callback to RSI. It's a signature style. It is part of the manufacturer's design. The overall size of the glass coverage will allow for a great wide-angle view, though. Next question, does it carry any fixed weaponry? There seems to be conflictions on the web, the brochure, and ship specs page. Now, they say the current plan is 4 size 10 torpedo launch tubes, 6 manned turrets, 1 remote-operated turret, which is on the nose, and that is controlled in the bridge, and then 1 automated lower rear turret. This is obviously still work in progress and subject to change when they start shaping the ship, but that is what they're planning for, and obviously they're so much further down the line with the ship construction, so I'm sure it'll be quite accurate. Next question, can you fully repair or refill any ship that fits in the hangar bay? And they say refilling and restocking will be optional, so yes, then will allow for some degree of repair. It has the room for technicians and repairmen to walk around in the ship and use portable repair tools and onboard supplies to repair to a greater degree than a lone mechanic in the field can, but it's not on the same level as the Crucible with a fully equipped workshop. Think more patch jobs than repair jobs. If the fighter comes back very damaged beyond just patching up, then you'll need to find a proper repair bay or a Crucible. So, final question. What other rooms are not shown on the layout? Now, the rooms that are not listed is the armory, the med bay, the brig, the captain's, secondaries, and fighter pilot quarters. Anyway, the Polaris is such a cool ship. I'm not interested in combat, but it is a very nice looking ship, and I'm so looking forward to doing a review of it, walking around it. These ships are just getting bigger, better, and more badass. Also this week, we have a new Terra Gazette post titled Why Gaith Ribeiro Quit Racing. Bug Smashers episode 34 is up, where we see Mark Bent take a look at the Ursa rover and its destruction capabilities. RTV post Citizen Gone special was also released this week. I will make that a separate video as it is about an hour and a half long, but stacked full of information, so do subscribe for that. And finally, October's subscriber flare this month is the Mustang Gamma Takietsu model. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.